This is dropping another round of Soccer's Morning Show. John here, you there. It is Thursday, so it's Thursday Thoughts. Thursday, traditionally, we're kind of getting into the weekend and those kinds of things, but because of matches last night, we got stuff to talk about. Atlanta United draws DC United. We'll have all of the discussion there coming up. We've got all the other matches in Major League Soccer. Niko Moreno joins us for Thursdays with Niko at 10:30 Eastern Time, where we get to ask him about this rebrand, or the new logos and things that are going on in Seattle, and if they're going to take the Space Needle out of the whole discussion. So Niko joining us at 10:30. We've got Champions League to talk about. We've got financial stuff to talk about. Trust me, we got plenty to play with here. And so whatever's on the table, obviously it's Thursday Thoughts. So whatever's on your mind is on our mind collectively. And we will go until we go. A couple of other things in the traffic pattern. We've got another couple of 1v1s that are going to be coming out later today. And one of them's, they're both really cool, but for different reasons. One of them, we're going to get kind of the lowdown on the 404 doc. And we'll talk about that too, Shooter. We're going to, the 404 documentary that was produced when the 404 kit came out. And we're going to kind of get some of the behind-the-scenes stuff about how it was put together and what it was like to piece it together. So that interview will be up on the network later this afternoon. And we will also catch up with one of the folks who is spearheading the new franchise in the NPSL in Columbus, Georgia. J.D. Hester, we're going to catch up with him later this afternoon, and we're going to post that to the network later today. Morning, Abby. Morning, Shooter. Morning, Nix. New job. Congratulations. Well done, Nix. So morning, Shooter. Morning, Nix. Morning, Abby. Morning, everybody. So, yeah, whatever's on your mind from last night doesn't necessarily have to be Atlanta United. Yes, we will talk about Atlanta United, and we'll get into that after opening kickoff, brought to us by our friends at Kickoff Coffee. But whatever's on your mind all morning long, Atlanta United, Major League Soccer, the world, we got stuff to talk about. Trust me. Niko Moreno joining us at 10:30. Opening kickoff this morning, brought to us by our friends at Kickoff Coffee, kickoffcoffeeco.com, and me covering up the hour number 2 QR code, so you can look at that QR code from our friends at Kickoff Coffee and kickoffcoffeeco.com. Once again, thanks to all of them for what they do for the game of soccer. And don't forget to use the code SoccerDownHere15. You get 15% off of your Kickoff Coffee. They, in turn, take 10% reinvested into the youth game. Very, very cool stuff from our friends, Morning Ricky, at Kickoff Coffee and kickoffcoffeeco.com. So, all right. Agents. We all love agents, don't we? You can file this under, I don't know, karma, computers, what have you. Story from Sam Wallace and Mike McGrath at The Telegraph to kick us off this morning. And God bless the internet. The Football Association's exams for around 700 aspiring football agents descended into chaos after the internet connection at Birmingham's NEC went down and some candidates were unable to complete the FIFA-mandated test in the hour allotted. Invigilators. What is an invigilator? It's the word. I've got to look this up. An invigilator. I have never heard of this word in my life. Invigilator jobs. They exist. Definition. Okay. So basically the person who watches you take the test. Is it called an invigilator? I've never known that. What is it? I'm this many years old when I found out, this many minutes old, TIL. Then I learned that the dude or the person who is there to watch over you take a test actually has a title? The Invigilator? Sounds like some crime drama movie. The Invigilator. Dun, dun. Yeah, proctor. It's a proctor. But apparently in England they call them invigilators, which gives them some kind of license to wear some like Mike Hammer, Mickey Spillane hat and a Burberry coat. Or maybe they get to drive a Camaro or something and slide across the hood of the car. The Invigilators. Man, that sounds official. Exactly, Shooter. Nothing's worse than an invigilator who takes it seriously. But apparently, okay, so we're going to say proctor for this article. Proctors from the FA made announcements apologizing for the problems over the Hall's public address system. We're sorry, the internet is having a problem and you can't fill out your test. While the exam was in progress, with some of those in the hall leaving their seats to protest that they could not get online to complete the test. The agent exam introduced by FIFA is crucial for those seeking to represent footballers, and Wednesday's exam was the last opportunity to be licensed before new regulations come into effect on October 1st. The exam costs £300 to sit, so basically like $400 to take it, and another $600 US payable annually to FIFA for the license itself. The next exam is not until May, and any unlicensed agent caught working in football before then could be subject to a 2-year ban and a fine. The candidates at the NEC were instructed to bring their own laptops to sit at the exam, and once in their seats to log into their FIFA accounts on the Wi-Fi provided. However, many found once that they had begun the exam, the connection would drop out when they clicked on the next question. When it was eventually restored, they noticed with horror that the timer was still running and precious minutes had slipped away while they were trying to reestablish the connection. Those who arrived early found they could not do past papers as practice because the internet connection was not functioning. Others even reported too few plug points. Not all of the 700 trying to pass the 20-question multiple choice test pass. Pass mark is 75% correct answers. They were affected, but some in the room have told Telegraph Sport that a sizable number were disrupted. As the problems deepened, the entire room was told over the public address system that it would be reported to FIFA. We're reporting this to FIFA that you guys can't log on. We're reporting this to FIFA that we're having problems here with you taking your tests. It's not our fault. It's the Wi-Fi's fault. Mr. Infantino, these prospective agents can't log on. That is the problem. In addition, FA officials read out the new logins over the public address for those who could not get online. Username, whatever your username is, password. Here is the password. So basically anybody, whether they paid or not, sounds like they could log in if they were in this building in Birmingham, England. Yeah, I'm just going to take the exam. Do you have a FIFA login? Nah. I'm going to see if I can be an agent. It is not clear whether the FA is authorized to adjust the pass threshold to compensate those who lost time. The FA said technical issues were experienced today. Understatement. Quote, technical issues were experienced today during the sitting of the FIFA football agent exam, and some of the candidates were unable to complete the exam on time. Sounds like a lot of them were. We are working with FIFA to agree next steps, and we apologize to candidates who were affected by these technical challenges. FIFA spokesperson. FIFA is in contact with the FA, who are responsible for the implementation of each exam, to ensure those affected are able to resit the exam in the coming days. The new FIFA regulations have proved deeply unpopular with leading agents. Among them is a limit on fees to 3% of a player's earnings on all annual salaries of more than $200,000, or 6% if they act on behalf of the player and the club. Agents brokering deals will only be allowed to earn a maximum of 10% of the fee paid. Man, if I was an agent in soccer these days, I'd be chapped. Critics of the new regulations say that clubs will find other ways of paying agents bigger fees in order to secure the players they want. Hey, here's a McDonald's bag. I didn't order any hash browns. An agent's career can still be very lucrative, according to the Telegraph, given the transfer fees paid and contracts awarded, with the global transfer industry now fueled by the Premier League's wealth. FIFA reported this month that 1.57 billion euro was spent in the January window alone, almost 900 million bucks by Premier League clubs. New agent regs were challenged by the Court of Arbitration for Sport, with FIFA prevailing in a judgment in July. Lesson learned: if you're a proctor, you're an invigilator. I swear I was this many years old when I found that term out. So we'll see if the FA and FIFA kind of sit there and go, October 1st. You got 10 days to figure it out. I want to see if these guys, these individuals who want to be agents have to pay again, or if they're going to, maybe they could do it from home. But yes, invigilator, the word of the day. Invigilator. Swear to God, didn't know the word existed. We'll get into Champions League. That's opening kickoff, by the way, but brought to us by our friends at Kickoff Coffee, kickoffcoffeeco.com. There's your QR code. For those of you who are watching on the social media platforms, not just Twitch, but on Facebook and the Twitters as well, don't forget to use the code SoccerDownHere15 with our friends from Kickoff Coffee. You, in turn, get 15% off of your purchase. They, in turn, meaning Kickoff Coffee, take 10% reinvested into the youth games. Very, very cool stuff from our friends at Kickoff Coffee and kickoffcoffeeco.com. And Abby is right on. Abby is going to call herself an invigilator when she proctors AP exams in May. Just walk in the room, slam the book down and go, I'm your invigilator. And have them sit there and go fishing for dictionaries and things like that. Everybody calm down. I'm just your proctor. That's just the fancy English word. Everybody deflates and gets ready for the exam. And I feel like there should be some kind of musical flourish behind it. Invigilator. Dun, dun, dun. One of those. It's in a gym. Well, I hope that you get I hope, Abby, in this case, I hope that means that you are on the stage and everyone else is on the floor. So you can sit there as the invigilator and look over everybody. Yeah, book slamming really echoed. Hey, gets their attention, especially if it's first thing in the morning for an AP exam. As long as you're a floor above everybody else and you're in control and you've got the microphone and everybody else is down there on the floor and they're sitting there going, man, I can't believe I'm taking this AP exam first thing in the morning. But yes, invigilator. It sounds like something that would go wrong on an audio recording. Boo. No stage of high school. They walk around without a mic. Boo. That's awful. But yeah, your invigilator's busted, ma'am. We'll have to come back to you. You'll have to pay $700 to fix your invigilator. Sounds like something's wrong with a car or your stereo or both. So invigilator, word of the day. All right. I know that you guys have already been starting up what's going on with last night with Atlanta United. Keep it coming. And we'll run through stats. We'll run through what happened last night. Hey, if it's a good paying gig, it's a good paying gig, Abby, right there with you. We'll go over the stats, and we'll go over what happened last night at Audi Field in front of Atlanta United, DC United, and a couple of close friends. That was not a building that had a whole lot of folks in it. Midweek game in DC. And that's what you ended up with. You did not have a lot of folks there in attendance last night. But Atlanta United, DC United 1-1 draw. And that means so far that you've had a 4-point week. And you've got Montreal coming for a home match on Saturday night. You take care of business, you've had a 7-point week. We'll go over the standings in Major League Soccer, look at things in the Eastern Conference, look at things in the Western Conference. We had our bits of chaos last night. Some in the Eastern Conference, but we'll go over what happened last night as well. Like I said, Niko Moreno joining us at 10:30, and we will go over all of it. So, the highlight of the match happened early. DC was a plus 105. Your draw was a plus 300, and Atlanta United was a plus 200. So, highlight came in, it started off early. Saba and Gigi combined in the 3rd minute. Gigi hits the post on the near side. And then Saba combines with Tyler Wolff. They are forming a really good relationship early on. So Saba and Tyler Wolff with the back heel combined in the first 10 minutes. And you can see that Alex Bono was not the most comfortable individual on the planet, being that sweeper keeper that Tyler Miller was. But then getting to the 14th minute, you end up with the first goal on the board. It goes to Atlanta United. And here is how it was called by Mike and Jason on 92.9 The Game and the Odyssey app.
Now they go to the near touchline, and Durkin has to retreat back into his defensive third, and Wolff dispossesses him cleanly. Wolff with the cross to Saba at the penalty spot. Shot! Score! Listen, all you all, it's a sabotage!
I think we're going to play that drop every single time now. Since Mike broke it out last night with a different verse, I figured the least we could do as a public service, every time now that Saba scores, we might do a different version leading into the chorus, or we may just do this one. But I think that this is now that Mike has ventured this direction, I think that this is the appropriate greeting or the appropriate tag for every single goal that Saba scores, or if Saba has a moment like he had over the weekend. But I think that this is the right song. I might play different parts of it, but yeah, after events, we're definitely doing it. Nothing like the Beastie Boys at like 9-something in the morning, right? So it's 1-0 at that point, and you end up with the press working again. Gigi had a shot deflected in the 15th minute. Then you had Benteke shooting high and wide. The shooting accuracy of DC last night, goodness gracious. They had, more shots that did not count for saves. They gave out a lot of souvenirs last night. That's all I can say. Unless the fans in DC threw the balls back toward the pitch. But man, a lot of the high and wides last night. It was no accuracy. It was good for Brad and good for Atlanta. And so then you had Saba with the chip. Saba to Gigi, giving the chip chance with from 30 away. So Saba tried to keep Bono off his line. Or Saba had Bono off his line, chipped from 30 and was high. Then you end up with, that was when DC in the first half kind of swung momentum back. And I don't know. Well, Nix, it might be Mad Ding Thong. I don't know. DC then took control of the tempo of the match. And you end up with Fajardo from Benteke in transition, and Brad stepped out, got the angle, and it ended up being shot wide. I know that's a theme from DC from last night. Juan, by the way, nice dive that wasn't called. DC's a bunch of divers. The only thing missing, if Jair Marufo were there, I'm sure there would have been no comments whatsoever on the deal. But Juan dove, and that's just the beginning of it. Then the 31st, Gigi had a shot from close range. Bono parried it away. It was deflected away for a corner. Juan dove a second time. I think Juan had more dives than he had completed passes at one point. Fajardo fouled Luis Abram in the 32nd, and then the shot was high. And this was the one where Juan dives, runs into Gigi. Gigi goes down. Then Fajardo fouls Abram as he's working down the right-hand side. And then Fajardo shoots it with a shank into row 20. Abby, I will get to the numbers here in a bit. Juan and Fajardo combined in the 33rd. A header wide of the far post. 35th minute, Saba tried the cut back to Gigi. And there was a couple of bodies down on the ground for DC United to keep that from actually working off. Benteke had a header that was high over Gazan in the 43rd. Then you had the double corner by DC in added time. Benteke got served, and then Fajardo in the 47th mishit it. And that got us to the half. So after, say, maybe the starting in the 25th minute with a couple of opportunities for Atlanta United, DC was in control of the tempo in the first half. Second half, it was a while before Atlanta United got a shot. Caleb Wiley got fouled. You had the first Atlanta corner in the match in the 52nd minute. Then you had Jay Fortune with a turnover in the 55th, right there in the middle of the pitch. And DC came back, and Brad had to come up with a big save there. You had your first subs, and this is what I had anticipated, that with the starting lineup being what it was, Brad, left to right, Wiley, Abram, Miles, and Brooks. Midfield of Jay Fortune and Tristan Muyumba, along with Thiago Almada. And then your front line, Tyler Wolf on the left, Gigi in the middle, and Lobjanidze on the right. That since Tyler and Saba came in for 20 minutes against Inter Miami, that they would be the ones that would start in this match. 30 to go, Wolf and Saba got subbed out. And then you had Xande Silva and Mosqueda, so do not be surprised if you end up with, once again, the folks that started the Miami lineup would be your lineup with Montreal. Xande Silva, Mosqueda, and then you would have Wolf and Saba, depending on, and this is where the physios are really going to have to come into play here, monitoring everybody here on basically a regen day today, and then walk through and tactics and practice tomorrow for getting ready for Montreal. But Silva and Mosqueda came in, 30 to go. Wolf and Saba got subbed out. And then Jay Fortune ended up with a yellow card. And this was the other part of all of this, where you had Lucas Zapala, who averages 5 yellows. It's like he had them all in the second half. It's like he held them back for some reason. Then DC had their substitution. Durkin and Fajardo left, and then you had Yamil Assad and Ted Kudi-Pietro come in. Kudi-Pietro showed you how dangerous he could be. We've seen him from his time at Loudoun United, and it is just working its way forward with the more reps he gets. Then you had the Abram handball call, which went to VAR, but it was reviewed all the way back to Benteke. I want to say it was Benteke who looked like he was offside. And the camera angle that they had was seemingly right in front of Mike and Jason, because they were all the way down to the left-hand side. And it was eventually ruled that DC was offside, so there was no PK, that the handball from Abram got waved away. Almada hit the free kick with 20 to go, and then Luis Abram was offside. The game got stretched once again with about 20 to go, and you're having DC working their way in transition going up against Atlanta. Hasechu came in for Jay Fortune. Jay Fortune did really well, giving you 70 minutes, because that helps you out with the Montreal game with your midfield possibilities. Then 15 to go. Miles blocks a Benteke cross. Yamil Assad was high from 25. Then Pirani scores with 10 to go. And you've, like I said, you kind of felt like Atlanta United was hanging on. And it was just a ball that was sent right inside the 18. Pirani shoots it underneath the defender and under Brad. We're tied at 1. And DC, 15 goals, second in MLS, 15 goals, 75th minute or later. That speaks a lot to what they've been able to do. No shots with 10 to go in the second half by Atlanta United. DC ended up with yet another sub where Click and Pirani go for Dahomey and Hurtado. And this is another thing that I wanted to get into. Christian Benteke is a very lucky man. He's a very lucky man. And next Wednesday when Bart comes on and we can talk about the women's national team and reffing down here, and Tom will get into all the points coming up in a bit after we do stats and things. So one of the things that if I'm Lucas Zappala must have the patience of Job, because for Christian Benteke to take his index finger and basically be this close to center ref, literally that close, he is jamming it right there in Lucas Zappala's face and not get a card. I mean, fine for Lucas Zappala to let Benteke say what he was going to say, but this bit, trying to sit there and wag an index finger in your face, I don't think I'd have the kind of patience. And the thing is, Benteke was already on a yellow. Benteke's on a yellow, pressing his luck, putting his finger in the face of center ref. And he's going to do that because, once again, any kind of star power for any kind of a club, if you're feeling your oats, you're a confident sort, and you think that you're untouchable, Jordan Rules kind of a deal, you're going to do this kind of thing. You're going to do this until you're told to put your finger down. Christian Benteke is a very lucky man he did not get a second yellow. Very lucky man. I don't have the patience for stupidity, and I don't have the patience for ego and these kinds of things. So when somebody's going like that to me, it's like, bruh, put it down. You keep coming after me with it, bang, card, bye. Christian Benteke is a very lucky man. Thiago had a shot in the 86th. I think that was the first one of the second half. Breakaway save. Corner off the Hurtado. Benteke header wide. What a shock. Atlanta sub for another couple of minutes. Gigi and Muyumba come off for another couple of minutes. Then Machop Chol and Purata end up coming in. Brad saved a chip from Benteke at 90+5. Mosqueda was offside in transition at 90+6. You end up with a 1-1 draw. All right, let's get into the numbers. Numbers on the day, and I know that Abby was looking for certain statistics. XG, for those of you who believe in that kind of thing, 2.02 to DC, 0.67 for Atlanta United. Possession was 56-44 Atlanta, and it was actually 51-49 at one point. I think it was 51-49 at the half. It ended up 56-44 Atlanta with all the time. But that's the thing. DC doesn't want to possess the ball. Atlanta wants to build up. And I think at times Atlanta might have gotten caught up in the idea of running and gunning, which is what DC kind of wants to do. DC doesn't want to build up. You saw a lot of times that DC's basically, I've got it. Oh, crap. I've got to get rid of it. And they launch it. That's their thing. Just launch it deep. Basically, it's like having an offensive coordinator tell you, it's like, all right, 4 verts, ready, break. And everybody just runs 4 verts and you try to get underneath it. That seems like DC's MO. Just run 4 verts. And then if they don't connect, then that means that they can come in and they can press and try to get possession away from you deep in your own end. So, yeah, DC ran 4 verts most of the night. 56% possession for Atlanta United. Total shots 19-6. DC United. But of the 6 shots Atlanta took, 4 of them were on target. How many shots did DC have on target of their 19 total? 4. 4 shots on target from 19. You know, we talk about high, wide, row 20. 19 shots for DC United. 4 of them on target, same as Atlanta United at the end of the day. 3 blocks for DC, 3 corners to 2 to DC. Atlanta was offside 4 times. I know that the Mosqueda one. Yeah, Mosqueda, if he just held back another second or two, he was wide open, and he was more than wide open running in the attacking third. That one chance late. 24 fouls called by Sapala. That's about average for him. And sure enough, he called 5 yellows. We went over the numbers yesterday. He averages 5.2 yellows. He punched 5, and I think they were all in the second half. Free kicks, 13-11 for Atlanta United, 17 throw-ins for DC to 16, 16 goal kicks, obviously, when you have 19 shots. 16 goal kicks for Atlanta United. 2 big chances to DC. They missed them both. Atlanta hit the woodwork, like I said. If Atlanta gets that second goal early on, I think the tenor changes. But you hit a post, you miss a chip, those kinds of things. Counterattack shots, shots inside the box, 16 shots inside the box for DC. 19 shots total, 4 on target. Passing percentages, 86% for Atlanta, 81 for DC. I'm surprised it's that high. 37 long balls for Atlanta United, connecting at a 60% rate. 22 for DC. Crosses 5-2. Duels were 50-50. 20 tackles for Atlanta United compared to 14. 11 picks to 8 for DC. 15 clearances to 12 for DC. Lineups and numbers. Gigi punched a 7. Tyler Wolf a 7.3. Tiago a 6.6. Saba a 7.5. Somebody's got to do the T-shirt. Somebody's got to do the Saba Time T-shirt, like Stone Cold, sitting on top of the turnbuckle. Jay Fortune a 7.1, and I give Jay Fortune a lot of credit for coming in and given the minutes that he did. Minutes he did last night. Niko coming up in just a sec. Tristan Muyumba, 6'7". The back line had 6s, except for Miles, who had a 7, Brad, who had a 6.9. So that's your sofa score numbers. And we now bring in the man in charge at Foto de Campo, Niko. Nick, what up?
Howdy do.
What up?
Just living, man. Just living. That's all that's happening here. The game was interesting last night. Somebody called it a draw.
Yes.
In yesterday's pick'ems.
Mm-hmm.
I had a feeling. I just had this gut feeling that was going to happen. Largely because of the schedule compression more than anything else.
Mm-hmm.
That we have the back line has been shielded by Muyumba so well that any sort of drop in pace will create opportunities for an attack to penetrate that back line.
Mm-hmm.
And it looked to me like that's what was happening. As you could see where tired legs took over.
Yep.
DC was able to find more space, and then it just kind of fell apart from there. It just looked like to me. I don't think there's anything that was so outlandishly poor that requires a rant. But I just think it's tired legs, man. It's that time of the season, and this is where some teams are going to be able to find a point here or there. And I have no problem splitting points away. I do have problems splitting points at home, but no, I think overall it was a pretty good game. Saba was cooking last night, man. Especially early on, had a couple of those passes, especially that back heel. Had Wolf found had maybe been a little bit faster on the trigger. you're probably looking at a 2-1 final score as opposed to just 1-1. But what can you do?
There you go.
That is an amazing music video.
Mm-hmm.
Spike Jonze did such a great job on that. Marvelous video.
Yes.
Spectacular.
Well, and I was getting into the discussion early where Tyler Wolff and Saba, they seem to have found a rhythm with their feel of one another. And you're seeing some things early on, and you saw it again last night. Tyler Wolff with the pressure to create the turnover, and then finding Saba and putting it in the back of the net. Tyler and Saba have come up with a good relationship early on for Atlanta United.
Yeah, and I think that one of the key things with that relationship is that Wolff has the speed. Like, he may not have the instincts to, or I'm not gonna say instincts, more of the chemistry yet to be exactly where he needs to be when Saba has the ball, but I think they're further ahead than a lot of the other guys. Mm-hmm. And Wolff has the speed, especially in the press, that allows him to be, create opportunities where, there's a 70-80% chance of pass completion for the other team turns into a 50-50 just because Wolff is so electric in a press. And that really creates opportunities for Saba. And in exchange for that, Saba, whenever he, will weave his way to space and draw defenders apart, will have these nifty little back heels and these, he'll find the pass at a really, really, just obscure angle. And Wolff finds his way there. And again, if Wolff doesn't do the look down, look up, look down, and then decide to pull, he doesn't get dispossessed there in the 18. But instead, he did the look down, look up, look down. Oh, crap, the ball's gone. That's just something that Wolff's going to figure out. It happens to everybody. It's just something that's going to, come along with time.
Yeah. Michael Valverde says that he was burnt from the match last night. It's a tough watch based on the expectations set from the last few, not our best. But, Nick, once again, to your point, you're talking about all the energy that was exerted against Inter Miami. Then you basically have a day of regen, day or two of practice, fly to D.C., do a match, come back late, and apparently traffic was a bear getting from Audi Field to Dulles so the team could get home last night. So they got home late. I'm guessing tonight everybody's sleeping in their own beds. Maybe an afternoon kind of a thing where you're just going in, you regen, you spend some time in the pool, whirlpool and what have you. Then everything kicks back in tomorrow where it's light practice and tendencies. And then you've got to go back and get ready to take on Montreal, who is going to be coming in on Saturday night. So it's 3 matches in a week, and you're trying to solidify your spot. Michael, I do understand where you're coming from, but remember, though, you're looking at schedule compression, minutes compression, all these kind of minutes addition, all these kinds of things that you're trying to get squared away for here in a push for the playoffs. So, as Nick said, it's all these factors coming together. And I know that Tom mentioned not having Chiade was disappointing that he wasn't even on the bench. And right now, Tom, we just don't know where, Jamal is when it comes to conditioning, and can he give you, can he run out there for 10 minutes and cause all kinds of havoc? Can he get to that point? Where is he right now? We don't know. So that if, maybe it comes this weekend with Chiade as a part of the 18, don't know. But right now, we just don't know where he is in his development and his conditioning in this stretch run. So Chiade's around stage 1. Take stage at a time. Yeah, go.
I don't think we're going to see him until the playoffs.
Yeah.
To be honest, I just don't think that you're going to see him really until if we're talking about getting him integrated to the team, ensuring his fitness is up, ensuring that everything is as it should be. I don't think we're going to see him until the playoffs. But if we're looking at how things worked out last night, look at Inter Miami and Toronto. Right,
Ooh.
Toronto's a hot mess, but Miami's 4 without Messi. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And without Alba, and this Atlanta team slaughtered them at the Benz. So it's hard for me to look at this draw with a hypercritical eye at previous result. I just don't, look, Campana's he's no slouch, man. He's not terrible by any stretch of the imagination.
No,
So
he's not terrible.
No. So to have a World Cup winner in Busquets and to have Campana on the same field, that's very good. I think what happened last night is you had Saba start, which I think was the right call. You had, I think, Moyamba that was on tired legs. I think Almada's tired. That's, if you look at the minutes those guys have been playing, and it's just nuts. I mean, Almada is, thank God he's as young as he is, because otherwise I think you'd probably be seeing the same issues you see from Messi at the moment, where it's like these little knick-knack injuries keep, picking up. And David, I think, brings a good point. You had Fortune in there as well. So this was a rotated roster largely, like you had some large roles that were taken up by some rotation. And it's important to keep it in perspective. I would have loved to have had a win last night. I think a win would have gone a long way to making certain circles of the fan base feel a hell of a lot better about about the team moving forward. I was complaining about David, to your point about the turnovers. I was complaining about some of the misplaced passes, and then Jarrett reminded me that at Audi Field, they like to keep that grass really long and really thick. And when you consider that, it says, oh, okay, all right. Especially if you're used to playing on turf. If you're used to playing on turf, the weight of the pass has to be handled just so, because the ball will just scream down the field. And when you play on grass, and it's, you're playing two different kinds. You have the teams that keep it like essentially a putting green, where it's just magnificent and the ball roll beautifully. And you have some that do like what Notre Dame did against USC back in the day, and what they seem to be doing at Audi Field with teams that like to play on the floor. They grow that grass nice and thick, within regulation, of course. But it really does. When you water it, it makes every pass just, you have to put a little something extra on it time and time and time again. And it looked like that to me, because some players who are normally exceptionally good at finding passes in the right situations, it was like, okay, you keep getting our player like 2 or 3 yards short on this pass. What is going on? To me, that's turf. It's just, you're used to sending weighted passes at a certain speed with a certain strength and a certain timing, and that was off yesterday. And I think the turf had a lot to do with that. So, and tired legs probably helped, right? I mean, that helps DC. And where did Atlanta get in trouble in the early part of the season? When they were having to do these chips backwards, right? Remember when we were doing early in the season, we were doing these chips from the midfield to the defense, and then the ball doesn't bounce the right way, and all of a sudden it's a perfect counter opportunity for a really stupid chip, like this real stupid knock-in goal, because a chip backwards bounced funny.
Yeah.
Well, what did we start having to do in the second half against DC? Because our passes on the floor weren't finding where they were supposed to be. We had to start resorting to chips. And that means that you're turning a ball that's normally 70, 80% completion percentage into a 40% completion percentage or a 50% completion percentage, which means that DC now has the opportunity to get something from that. And it sort of put the back line and Brad into a shooting gallery.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, that's what I saw anyway. And people are, more than welcome, of course, to disagree or whatever. But tired legs plus thick turf equals turnovers. And that's what we saw, in my opinion. See what you like.
Yeah. No, Nix was bringing up the point about the story that we discussed late yesterday. I'm going back in the timeline and I'm coming forward to catch everybody up. The Josh Cohen story that came in The Athletic, it turned out to be basically much ado about nothing, because Major League Soccer came out and said Atlanta United didn't do anything wrong. And what this does is, sadly, I mean, it makes Josh Cohen look, and his representation, not look 100%. Because if all a team in Major League Soccer needed to do was sit there and go to, Atlanta United and go, if we pay you $50,000 in GAM, we'd like to catch up with Josh Cohen and maybe have him on our roster. The number of teams that contacted Atlanta United to have a conversation with the 31-year-old keeper does not seem to be a whole lot right now, because he is, last time I checked, and I'm going to our friends at Transfermarkt to see if anybody's picked him up. But right now, Josh Cohen is he's on the 18 for Without Club FC at the keeper position. It's like him and David De Gea, I think, would be your 1 and your 2 for your keepers right now at Without Club FC. And if someone in Major League Soccer would have been interested in Josh, they would have dialed up Atlanta United and say, "Hey, here's $50,000 in GAM. Here, we want the rights to discover a conversation with him." So basically, Nick's, it turned out to be much ado about nothing. Major League Soccer said Atlanta United didn't do anything wrong, and I think now it's making you think about Josh Cohen and his representation going forward for something like this.
In this league, and because of the salary cap,
mm-hmm.
the object is for any front office in this league, maximize value,
mm-hmm.
right? So if you want a $50,000 contract to play like a $200,000 contract, you want a $200,000 contract to play like a $500,000 contract, and the $500,000 you want to play like a DP. That's where you find success. You want to put yourself in a position where players outperform those contracts and you have to make difficult decisions. That is when you are successful as a front office, when you have the ability to mine talent that plays well above their pay grade, that has gone undiscovered. When I was at NCAA.com, I covered the lacrosse championships up in Foxborough.
Mm-hmm. And
we did an interview with Salisbury College's lacrosse coach, who is Division III, and he was had the most wins of any lacrosse coach in the country. And so naturally, I asked him, "Okay, what's the secret sauce?" And you don't expect to really get an answer, when you ask the coaches this, like, well, hard work, da da da. And he said, "Look, Nick, the secret sauce is very simple. You do not win Division championships with Division III players.
Nope.
You find Division I kids who don't want to leave home and they want to stay nearby, so you recruit them. Then you find Division II kids who have been overlooked. Either they go to a small school, they didn't have their profile put together, they're a late bloomer, and that's what you do to get them in. And then you have a couple of Division III kids who can play above their weight. They develop really well, they're coachable. That's how you win. That philosophy is the same across the board in any salary capped league. Any. And you want to find players who can grow and develop, who you can buy low and sell high, if this kid had that much transformational talent, that much transcendent talent, that ability to project to be, oh my God, this kid's stupid good, well above anything we have in house right now, cut the check, get him.
Yeah.
And for 50 grand, that is a steal. That is really where you will find some of these teams like Philadelphia, okay, like Dallas, like Real Salt Lake, like Minnesota, Toronto, right? Teams that are, hey, look, we are in a rebuilding process. We're trying to, free up a metric ton of cap space and really get out from underneath bad contracts for the next year or two. This is the kind of deal they would dive on if this kid had transformational talent.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not saying the kid's bad.
No.
I'm not saying the kid's great. I'm just saying that there are a lot of professional scouts in this league who have not ponied up cash to get him. And you can be mad about that. And you are justified in feeling mad about that. But you have to be careful who you're listening to.
Mm-hmm.
Because there are some people these soothsayers, who will pour honey in your ear and tell you, yes, you should be angry at everyone. Oh, we have to make a statement about this. You are just amazing, and everyone needs to know it. And these people are scoundrels for locking you into this contract. They're terrible human beings. But you'll have some people who will tell you uncomfortable truths. And this is going to happen in life, uncomfortable truths. And they're going to say things like, hey, there's room for you to improve. So you should probably work on that. And we'll put out a statement that says, while we would certainly love to explore opportunities to play, in the meantime, we're doing everything to ensure that that our client becomes an unmissable talent. Mm-hmm. And we look forward to working with the staff at Atlanta United to be the very best player we can be. And quietly behind the scenes, you do whatever the hell you want. But publicly, that's what you need to say. And that's what they should have done for this kid. And they didn't do that. And now we have somebody who's petulant. Rightly or wrongly, that's what the image is.
That's the tag.
That's the tag. And the last thing anybody wants in a situation where you're probably going to use a contract buyout on a misplaced designated player or a high dollar TAM player, you don't want to use that on some like 50 grand value player, right? So it's just easier to say, no, we're not going to do that deal. The risk reward just isn't there. And so I would strongly recommend that this kid's representatives rethink their current strategy from a communications and PR perspective. And that's just my 2 cents. I have worked in PR with lawyers who have clients who are about to do television interviews and radio interviews. The first thing you need to understand is do no harm. You need to follow your own little Hippocratic oath, do no harm. And the way you do that is by oftentimes keeping your mouth shut and avoiding answering questions, then throwing out word salad or rage. Those things don't help you. Word salad and rage do not help you when you are trying to convince people of a certain narrative is closer to reality than the one that's currently being presented by someone else. Because what happened now is The Athletic says one thing, chiming in with this kid that, I'm aggrieved. This is
Harumph.
Yeah, harumph, zoons, and then Major League Soccer comes out and goes, no, they're actually operating above board here. Everything's good. So, what happened is the league stepped up because the league, this is going to be a shock, they work together, right? They're franchises under one umbrella. They are not going to allow someone to come from the outside and say that there's impropriety taking place on their franchises and not have it go unanswered. So you essentially called out and forced Major League Soccer's hand to make a statement saying Atlanta United operated above board. Now, what is the narrative? Ask yourself that. You don't have to answer it. Ask yourself what the narrative is now. What is the perception out there now? Right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I would strongly counsel them to rethink their strategy. I've been doing this for a very long time. I don't make a big deal of it normally, but there are some clients who I've talked to and said that it's probably best, even though you have all of these interviews scheduled, this whole round table thing set up from Ring Around the Rosie around town. You are in the number 8 media market in the United States, and if you misplay your hand, if your client gets a little too emotional and pops off, you're sunk, and you're not going to be able to undo that mess. So it may just be best to fake like you have a stomach issue and not do any of these interviews today. and it's what kind of PR strategy is that? It's the one that keeps your client out of hot water. It allows this sort of nebulous narrative to float out there, as opposed to one where you have essentially confirmed everything that the opposition was saying. So, Major League Soccer has come out now and said that it's all good. Atlanta United was above board, and now it looks like there's petulance from a player. You've just sunk your own ship, man.
Mm-hmm.
If you're playing Battleship, you might as well say my battleship's at B2. That's the last space on my battleship. B2. Well, you say my battleship. I mean, come on, man. Jesus. And David says, are you insinuating that the Athletic writer would publish a hit piece against Atlanta United, maybe with anonymous sources? I am not insinuating any such thing. I'm just saying that once in a while.
No such thing, sir.
The media has a tendency to grab onto it and run with it. And that may be a good idea, and sometimes it may not be.
It is after 10 o'clock, so that means I have to read a promo.
Read that promo.
I will read the promo. I have to find the music first.
Hey, John.
Yeah.
While you're doing that,
Uh-huh.
What if there's a strange in my house that I can't seem to get rid of after using a ton of masks?
Well, there's one way that you can attack this, and I'm going to have musical accompaniment to tell us how.
Wow. This is amazing.
It is.
I don't know.
There's one place you need to go. It's our friends at the Lemonize service. QR code over my left shoulder for those of you who are watching either on the Facebook, the Twitch, or the Twitters. It's a 280-character app. For odor-free, clean, fresh air, that's the place you need to go, the Lemonize service. Deodorizing enclosed spaces like houses, apartments, and condos. Created a customized solution that eliminizes all organic odors, including those like pet cigarettes and food. Realtors and property managers use the Lemonize service to eliminate bad odors to help them sell or rent their homes that much faster. It's a turnkey process. I don't know what that means. Sounds good, because if a Lemonize is attached to it and they offer it this turnkey process, then it's got to be a good thing, because it makes it easy to work with realtors and property managers. Kind of the environment, that I do know about. Offering a green way to get rid of odors without any kind of toxic residue whatsoever. Different than Febreze or our favorite masking agents that you may have either under the sink or above you in the cupboard, because when you reach under the sink or above you in the cupboard to get said masking agent, then you drag the masking agent out and you spray it in the room of choice. Mm-hmm. There's a reason they call it a masking agent. Ooh. Because all it does is mask the odor. It doesn't attack the problem like our friends at the Lemonize service do with their proven scientific formula. Pricing very, very easy. Either by the cubic foot or parts per million, and come up with a price that's affordable for you, offering results in 24 hours or less. And I believe you can consult Mike Conti on their effect. Any questions you might have, frequently asked or otherwise, go to the website. This is where I grab my pen. Lemonize.com is the website, but do us a favor. After the .com, go /Atlanta so they know what part of the world that you are addressing them from, so they can help you with your problem. Full homework assignment. ELIMINIZE.com /Atlanta, Lemonize.com /Atlanta. A Lemonize service, proud sponsors of everything SDH on a Thursday.
You know why they call it a turnkey process there, John?
No, I don't.
How easy is it to turn a key?
Very.
Very easy. That's the whole thing. Is if it's a turnkey service, that means that they're not coming in and having to repaint your walls, rip up your carpet. They're not having to do a whole bunch of craziness in order to ensure they're not having to ship in water that has been brought forth from a spring in Nepal that has been carried by the Jesuit priests across the seas to clean to clean the odors from your home. No, it's a turnkey service. That means they show up. It's a very simple process that they use, patent pending, trademark, and all the other things, important things that they use to remove the odors from your home. And if you're a parent and you have kids, they make strange odors in strange places.
Well, yes, they do.
Man alive. I know who I'm calling.
Our friends at Lemonize Service. Alex, to start out number 2, he says, one thing about Nick is he's never not going to enable his people to get their money.
That's right.
Always looking out for him. Question for you, sir. Christian Benteke.
Okay.
How lucky is he?
Oh, man. That what I think is amazing is how his finger, his index finger extends like an extra 4.5 inches when he is talking to someone. It's like the T-1000. Remember in Terminator 2, whenever he had like the T-1000 would just like point his finger and it would just extend into like this giant needle point.
Yep.
It felt like that was happening. And I understand that that Mr. Benteke was probably very, very, he was convinced he was right on a few key things.
He was aggrieved. Yeah.
It's one thing to do that to another player. I think he's very lucky that the official gave him so much latitude
on a low.
And not because that finger was almost touching the official's forehead, and that to me that would be a card immediately. That's just me though. You're not putting an index finger on my face like that. I'm just saying. I don't care. I don't care if it's Brooks Lennon. I don't care if it's Benteke. I don't care if it's Lionel Messi. You're not putting a finger bumping up against my cranium like that. Not happening.
Yeah. Speaking of Lionel Messi. Going over the schedule from last night. Charlotte had a 2-0 lead at home. 2-goal lead. Most dangerous lead in soccer. They didn't finish with a 2-goal lead. No. Philadelphia got a point, 2-2 draw. Columbus on a hat trick by Cucho in the first half, 2 of them on PKs, beat Chicago 3-0. You mentioned Messi, and we mentioned Toronto. In saying that Toronto is a dumpster fire is insulting to dumpsters. Taylor had a brace. Facundo Farias had one. Kromoski had one. Miami wins 4-0. So mazel tov to them. Also on the board last night, Montreal-Cincinnati, a 1-1 draw. Montreal had a lead at Stade Saputo, one of the toughest places to play. Got a point out of the deal. NYC, the shocker of the night, I think, beat Orlando City 2-0 at Citi Field. See what happens when you get away from Yankee Stadium? Red Bulls in Austin, 1-1 draw. Houston 4-1 over Vancouver. Nashville put 3 on Sporting. That was one that Sporting needed, and I think Nashville needed it more. St. Louis and LAFC goalless draw. Seattle 2-1 over Colorado. Dallas 3-1 over RSL. If you took the over in LAG and Minnesota, you did well.
I believe I took the over.
Billy Sharp, a hat trick. 4-3 LAG. Craziness in that one.
Wait, no, I took the over in Portland and San Jose.
You did?
I did. That's when I took the over in.
And it didn't work.
No.
You said 3.5, and it was 3. Portland, 2-1 winners there.
Man.
Miami, injuries to Messi and to Jordi Alba. Miami, it is said that he will not play this weekend.
I like that they are coming out in advance and saying that. That's helpful. Yeah. Look, we for so long have viewed Messi as a space alien. His ability with these little micro touches to kind of just weave around people. He's in his mid-30s, man. And for those who are not in their mid-30s yet, the ability for you to pick up injuries starting in your mid-30s, it is hilarious. You sneeze. Oh God, what? Did I just pull a muscle on my back? Oh my God. You reach down to pick up something your kid dropped. Oh, wait, hold up. Did my knee just pop? I mean, pull a quad here at the grocery store. I mean, what the heck is going on? Yeah, age is a magnificent. First of all, let me say, growing old is a gift. It is a gift. Okay, and that's I say that with zero sarcasm. Growing old is a gift. I'm of getting older, but you do have to be a bit smarter about your body because the ability that you had in your 20s to be like, oh, hold up, I think I have a slight pull on my hamstring here. Nah, I'm going to keep going out and playing. Yeah, no, that doesn't work for you. You gotta calm that mess down. So good for Messi for checking himself out of the game, doing all that mess. So.
Well, you want to know who started and captained Messi and had Jordi Alba on a double roster week? That'd be me.
That didn't work well.
No, it did not.
Yeah, it's just one of those things, man. It happens. What are you gonna do though? If you have him on your roster, you got to start him. If you don't start him, and Messi scores like 5 goals, then you're the goon who thought you were so smart that you didn't have to play Messi, and everyone gives you. Jason would be hitting you up saying like, "How do you not start Messi?" in all caps, and you'd be like, "Well, I thought he was going to be injured, and you always start Messi." And then this happens, and they're like, "Well, why did you start it?" Like, you can't win.
No. Morning, Jared.
Morning, John. You having moments about starting Messi and Jordi Alba, and both of them not playing 35 minutes, but Miami's still pulverizing Toronto because it's a broken shell of a glove.
Yeah, I was discussing fantasy, and it's because look, I'm 19th in the 22 team league in the Pro Rel division. I'm middle of the pack in the league, but yeah, 19th out of 22 in the Pro Rel division. I'm like hovering right over being relegated out of the Pro Rel league.
Can we talk about the fact that they didn't play on the turf in Atlanta, but they played on the soft Miami grass and still got hurt? Like, I don't wish anybody to get hurt. There's a sickening irony to this.
Well, Nick talked about the grass at Audi and how they like to grow that like second cut at Augusta National.
Right, and I make sure that was Jared that pointed that out. That was not me. It was only after Jared pointed out that I was like, "Oh well, yes, this is."
It's been that way since 2017. Sometimes it's not as intense as it is now, and I think there are times where it's been different, where they've cut it lower. But look at the way this DC team plays. It's not even the second cut at Augusta National, man. That's like the rough at your community 9-hole that has the driving range where Tin Cup is hanging out. Like it hasn't been mowed in a while, but there have been go back and watch that game. Watch a couple of the balls on that field where somebody would play a pass like 20 or 30 yards on the ground and it starts going and then it just dies. Like turf was high cut, but that's to their advantage. I was talking to somebody about this yesterday. Like, you've got this build out where you can modify the surface to your advantage because DC doesn't need the ball on the ground. They're going to hoof it down the field.
They're going to hoof it.
They're going to hoof it to Christian Benteke's complaining ass head and play off of him. And look, it worked because guess what? Of the two teams last night, they're going to feel like they should have won. DC might have more acclaim. They played a damn good game last night. Played better than I thought they would. But yeah, it's tall grass.
Well, look, no, it was the opening scene from Oklahoma. Okay, it was the tall grass waving in the wind. Oklahoma, where the wind blows gently across the plain, and the grass is waving in the wind. That was the surface of Audi.
Yeah, I mean, it's intense. Such is life, though. But yeah, you got an early lead, and you were not able to hold on to it. And be great if Miles Robinson hadn't gone to sleep in that moment. It's disappointing, but at the same time, when you look at the stats, you're like, that was a lot. But there was that stretch in the second into in the start of the second half. I was like, this is fine, because at a certain point, DC was getting shots off, but a lot of it was like shots outside the 18 at angles. I'm like, cool. If they want to shoot from 23 yards and have Christian Benteke outside of the box trying to break guys down, cool. I can live with that. But it's when like they start getting, pinball down around the box, and you get a bounce go your way, and then you start being able to work it around the box to try and create that shot. That's where you're like, I don't have good feelings about this.
Yeah. But bottom line is, it's done.
Next time we should take a goat up to DC.
Yes. Well, they've got one over at the Naval Academy. Just rent that one from Annapolis.
That's right.
Just let the goat loose on the field before the game.
Just don't let any of those West Pointers anywhere near it. Okay, we can't have the goat stolen.
No, that is a no. You cannot have that happen. So let's look at the standings. And Niko Moreno set to join us in about 15 minutes for Thursdays with Niko. And we mentioned how crazy it is. And Alex says, worth noting that even if we'd won, we'd still be in 6th, but more worrisome, everyone above and below us currently above the line except 2 still has 1 or 2 games in hand. I think we'll make the playoffs, but it may be closer than some people think.
Look, that's also anticipating the idea that everybody else wins out, which
right.
isn't actually possible, because there's a lot of, honestly, and this is what's going to be fun, not just for Atlanta. There's a lot of 6-point games around the league in the last 4 games, 5 games, depending on how many you've played, 6 games for some of you degenerates who have backloaded your schedule.
Yes.
There's a lot of 6-point swing games involved. Atlanta will be fine. Now, might not make a top 4. Yeah, very likely will not make a top 4 right now, unless they take 3 points off Philadelphia in Philly.
Yeah.
And take points off Columbus. It's going to be possible. It's going to be tough as hell, though.
Here's how things lay out right now. Cincinnati's at 59 points. They're in. They were the first one in. Orlando, with their activity last night, they're in. They're at 50 points. They're in second. They've also played 29 matches. Columbus, with the Cucho Hernandez first half hat trick, they're in. 48 points, 14 wins. They're at plus 19 in goal difference. Philadelphia, same number of wins as Columbus, same number of points, but they're behind in goal difference at 16. All 4 of those are in. New England has now dropped to 5th place, 13 wins. So they got some work to do. Atlanta right now is in 6th. I think New England probably drops some more anyway. Atlanta right now, 46 points. They've played the most matches, 12 wins on the board, and they've got Montreal coming in this weekend. Nashville, with their activity, they're at 43 points. They're 7th. Montreal and DC, 37 points and 36. That's your 8-9. NYC, with their win last night, closed the distance a little bit at 34. Chicago and Charlotte. Charlotte has moved up in points. They did not improve their lot last night. Chicago is at 33 points, 8 wins. Charlotte is at 33 points and 7 wins. Messi and friends are at 31 points. They are now actually ahead of Red Bulls. Red Bulls are now next to last at 31 points. And wooden spoon that can handle centimeters filled with liquid as opposed to ounces is at 22 points in 29 matches with a record of 4-15-10. 10-4 on the road this year. Western Conference. St. Louis, they're in at 50 points. Seattle, with their win, they're at 45. Like I said, we'll talk to Niko about that and the rebrand and everything out west coming up in just a little bit. LAFC, with their 1 point last night in St. Louis, 44 points. Houston, with the win, pole vaults Vancouver. Sorry, Nick. Vancouver is now at 41 points in 5th place. RSL, 11 wins, is in 6th at 40 points. San Jose, 10-10-10. The bastions of consistency. Jarrett's Quakes. 10-10-10 after 30 matches, 40 points. They're in 7th. You're 8-9. Portland and Dallas, 39 points and 38. Minnesota, 37 points. Kansas City at 35, Austin at 34. Austin is now down to 12th in the standings. They have played one less match than Sporting Kansas City. And LAG is at 33 points with the madness that they had last night. Colorado is at 22 points with a record of 4-14-10. So they have played one less match than Toronto, same number of points, as they are both chasing either a rabid wooden spoon or one that holds centimeters filled with liquid. So, Nick, that is the chaos that we currently have in both conferences heading into the weekend after last night.
It is what it is, man. Look, there are some teams that are going to have to look at rebuilds. And if you are if you're looking at this table right now, I think the team that has the most to be concerned of, honestly, it's two: Sporting Kansas City and Austin.
Mm-hmm.
Sporting Kansas City, because they've been doing the same thing for so long with the same people, that you're undergoing a sea change there if you make any sort of shifts, which I think they need to do. I think it's just time. Austin, if there's any sort of thing about this league that has held true, is that your first 4-5 year distance are when you are most likely to be able to win a title, because you have all that extra money to play with to build a competitive roster. You're able to, because of the draft, you're able to bring in players who can, help right away. And if you're willing to spend like Atlanta and LAFC were able to do, and you spend legally,
Yes.
like Atlanta,
legally.
Pink team. You can put yourself in a position to be not just competitive, but be a title-winning team right out of the gate. And Austin came out looking really, really good, and then have just fallen off a cliff. So if you're going to make any changes, you need to do it before all that magical Tam, Wham, and Gam runs away, or the Garber Bucks, before those fly out the door, and you're competing with the rest of everyone else, like Minnesota is doing now, without having any stars or any real silverware to hold.
But they've got Timu Pookie.
Yeah. We're going to do things our way. That really typically works. Okay, great. St. Louis is the one who seems to be bucking the trend when it comes to teams that said, well, we're going to do things in a different way than everyone else. But they're at the top of the table, man. They can say whatever they want. But if you're Austin right now, you have to be sweating, because there's no reason you should have access to those kind of Garber Bucks and be at 12. To me, that doesn't work. So Sporting Kansas City, Austin, they need sea changes. LA Galaxy needs a sea change. You're a Los Angeles team. You should be able to bring in high grade talent. And yeah, you've had a ton of injuries, but you also have some bad contracts that you're going to have to adjust for.
Mm-hmm.
Minnesota, I think, needs to have a coaching change. Dallas is Dallas until they decide to start really diving in, spending money. I think they're going to consistently be a mid-table team. The Fighting Khakis of Houston are shockingly good. I don't think they have anything to worry about. LAFC, they're fine. They're cooking with gas. Seattle. But those teams at the bottom, man, outside of the civil war going on in Colorado, they're 10th through 13th, man. There's a lot of questions there.
No doubt. Jared, when you look at your Quakes right now hanging on at 10, 10, and 10, I feel like Ty Dillinger all of a sudden. When you look at the West, then I know, like I said, when Niko comes in, we'll get into the West more in depth and red light, yellow light, green light, and the rest of what he thinks. But with the chaos in the East, where the East teams could be second in the West, and the West teams would be fighting for the playoff spots in the Eastern Conference, this is kind of the chaos that we were looking for, right?
We talked about it, man. The East is an absolute dogfight. Atlanta would be second place in the West right now. It's still wild. Atlanta went undefeated against Western Conference teams. You're gonna get years like this. We get it in all sports where, like, hey, this year, this conference is just absolutely the Thunderdome, and the other conference is basically My Little Pony. Because right now, that's what you're looking at. Like, and it's not to say that like someone from the West won't do something fun, or the law of stupidity tells you that the MLS Cup champion will somehow come out of the West and it will be really dumb.
7 seed.
Yeah, man, something stupid. But the East has been an absolute dogfight this year. That's okay. It's just going to be weird. As far as the Quakes go, to your first question, honestly, with the Quakes, like a 10-10-10, dude, I'll take it right now because look at what the Quakes were. Nick talked about doing a reset. They went through Matias Almeida, didn't work out, brought in Lucci, and Jason and I talked about it earlier in the season. Quakes weren't just like weird, fun good. There have been stretches they've been legitimately good, and they have something to build on going forward. And this is the thing with sports that we have to remember sometimes is you're looking not just to do something this year, but you're trying to make sure you're stable for the near and immediate future and even the long-term future. For instance, I think Atlanta's in really good shape going into 24, looking at the pieces they have. For God's sakes, I'm begging you, trigger the buy on Shante Silva. I'm begging you. And if it's Mateus Zetsu in there with William Ba next year,
yeah,
cool. If you can improve that position, cool. He made a couple mistakes last night, but he cleaned them up. I thought Jay Fortune was fine last night.
Three homegrown started last night for Atlanta United.
Yeah, I thought Jay was fine. And if you tell me next year that it's Hasetsu or it's if you want to try and improve that spot, it's somebody else, and then it's Jay behind that person, and then Sadic, providing more depth, I'm good with that going into 24. I think San Jose's in good shape going into 24, better shape than they've been in a long time because while it's possible to do those 1-year turnarounds, I'll sacrifice a 1-year turnaround if it means that I might have 3, 4, 5 years of stability. And I think Lucci gives San Jose that right now, which is what they desperately needed more than a flash in the pan. If I want a flash in the pan, you want flash in the pan that leads to nothing? Go look at the 2017 Chicago Fire, where it was Veljko Paunovic and it was Alexander Katai.
Yeah.
Who won the Golden Boot that year with 16, 17 goals. It was kind of a weird year.
Yeah.
Only because Joseph missed half the season. Because I think Joseph finished 3 or 4 goals behind him and played half the year. That was a flash in the pan situation. And it ended up not being sustainable. So I will take, finishing in the bottom half of the playoff ranking in exchange for more stability that I can build on later if I'm San Jose, especially if I'm San Jose, because I'm not a club that's going to open the pocketbook to the extent that LA or Atlanta will.
Looking forward to that and to Niko's 2 cents as well. Just posted something. It's not quite breaking news considering that it is a 7:30 home game for Atlanta United, but I did post something in the Twitch pitch. But I will, for those of you that are just listening and not watching, once again, we're live at Reverb to start your Saturday from 1 to 2. Not quite the brunch that we had last time out with Messi and friends hitting town. Normal kickoff time was 7:39. So that means that we are 1 to 2 at Reverb, breaking everything down. Now, according to our friends at the Flood Project, the first 2 people, 2, first one's in the door. First 2 people on site get a pair of upgraded premium seats to Atlanta United's final home match against Columbus on October 7. So start your full day before you head to the tailgate with us at Reverb from 1 to 2. We'll talk about the week, get you ready for Atlanta and Montreal, take the tour of what's going on around Major League Soccer, set up all your standings, set up your playoff implications, who's in, who's out, who's where. If you're first in the door, you and your date, you and your SO, you and the boss, first 2 in the door at Reverb, upgraded premium seats to the United match against Columbus, the regular season home finale, October 7. That's your PSA for today. We'll obviously redo the PSA later on. But that's the key. You got to walk in the door at Reverb. You got to be there first, you and somebody else. You get the upgrade for October 7th. Looking forward to seeing everybody there at 1 o'clock on Saturday afternoon, because you could get upgraded and see the Atlanta-Columbus match for some really cool seats. So come visit us. Start us up right there, 1 o'clock, Reverb, SDH, and you for Match Day Live. Go ahead, Nick.
Well, I was going to say that as the Warrior Queen, Beyonce, once stated, let me upgrade you. Okay. I mean, that's what you want a date night out there, don't you? There's somebody out there who has some seats, man, and you're like, 5 rows back, 6 rows back at the second level, and you've got that annoying group that stands in front of you the whole time. You're trying to stand up and enjoy the game, but maybe they're like 6'7", and they're blocking your view. You're one of us of the shorter variety. Well, if you're one of the first two at Reverb, guess what you're doing? You're upgrading yourself.
Yeah, and you don't have to worry about 6'7".
No, you don't. So not that there's anything wrong, Jarrett, with 6'7" people, but
I try and stay out of people's way. It's usually Tyler Pilgrim getting in my way. So
that's true.
Yeah, see.
Because Tyler wants to shoot photographs.
What you could do, you show up to Reverb, which is literally across like an access road from Mercedes-Benz Stadium, by the way.
Yeah.
And they have very clean bathrooms.
Yes, they do.
They have an unbelievable setup there with fantastic music, delicious drinks, tasty food, helpful staff, entertainment, and even more so than anything else, upgraded seats. Yeah.
So there's that. There's all of that. There's all of that. Yeah. Shoes of a champion, right there. But
I'm just saying. Look, man, there's opportunities out there for people who want to take advantage of it. That's all I'm saying. And Reverb, especially when we're going into fall season now, and the rains will pop up magically, especially on game day. I don't want to stand out in the mud and the rain and all that. You don't have to. Come stand up at Reverb, and you could still make your way down to the supporters tailgate with plenty of time to partake and enjoy.
Absolutely. Yesterday in Champions League, Arsenal put 4 on PSV. That one was over early. Bayern and Manchester United. What in the ish is wrong with Manchester United other than wearing those damn Juve jerseys that they wore yesterday? Harry Kane had a goal. Bayern beat Manchester United 4-3. Andre Onana had a howler of howler proportions, and that was a hell of a howler. Salzburg beat Benfica 2-0. Napoli 2-1 over Braga. Real Sociedad and Inter drew at 1-1 at a plus 213. Same score Sevilla and Lens at a plus 241. Galatasaray Copenhagen drew at a plus 301 at 2s. Real Madrid, Union Berlin tried to just basically not do anything for 90 minutes. Worked for about 87. Real Madrid, Jude Bellingham scores, and it's 1-0, and Real Madrid escapes with a 1-0 win at home against Union Berlin. But today it's Europa League, which means you've got like 9 gazillion games going on at once. And you've got half of them at 12:45 and half of them at 3. And I think we also have Conference League today too? Like the insanity of Europa Conference League? Yes, we do. So there's Conference League and Europa League today. Golasso Network, Golasso Show probably would be the way to watch all of them simultaneously because of its inherent craziness. Big favorites across the board in a lot of these. In Europa League, Leverkusen, big favorite. Liverpool, big favorite on the road at Lusk. Villarreal, a favorite. Karabag, who's having to fight, I think, invasions at the moment and a civil war, playing at 12:45. Rennes, a big favorite at home. Royal Union, a favorite against Toulouse at home. Slavia Prague, a favorite on the road at some place called Servette. Our friend Sheriff Tiraspol are underdogs at home against AS Roma at minus 208. Ajax favored at home against Marseille. Marseille, we know about the chaos that's going on there. Coach is just like, nope, I'm out the door. Not happening. Don't want it. The supporters group's a little bit too mouthy and violent for me, so I'm out the door. So Ajax favored at home. Atalanta, big favorite at home against Rakov. Brighton, a favorite at home against AEK. Olympiacos, a favorite at home. Rangers, a favorite at home against Betis at 3 o'clock. Sparta Prague, a big favorite at home at a minus 185. Sporting Lisbon, a minus 112 favorite on the road. West Ham, a big favorite at home against somebody called TSC. In Conference League, looking at your numbers, Eintracht Frankfurt gets Aberdeen, and Eintracht Frankfurt is a minus 625, by the way. That's one of the 1245s. Fenerbahce, big favorite at home. Ferencváros, a big favorite at home against somebody called Kukaricki. Fiorentina, favored on the road at Genk. PAOK Salonika, favored on the road at HJK. Aston Villa, favored on the road at Legia Warsaw. Ludogorets Razgrad, big favorite. You really need to know. This is degenerate. This is like sicko stuff here. AZ Alkmaar, favored on the road at minus 161. So if you want to watch Georgi Mihailovic, you can do that. Besiktas, a dog on the road at Bruges. Dinamo Zagreb, a big favorite at home against Astana. Bodo Glimt, a plus 106 on the road against Lugano in Switzerland. Maccabi Tel Aviv, a minus 769 at home against our friends Breidablik. Victoria Pilsen, big favorite. Slovan Bratislava, big favorite. Ghent, a favorite on the road against Zorya Luhansk. And no, that one is not being played in Ukraine. So it is now a half hour to go, which means on Thursdays we bring in somebody else to talk stuff. That's the official term. And so the guy's got his own opening. He's got his own intro. So we're going to play that right now and catch up with Thursdays with our man Niko. Beat 2, 3, 4. Niko Moreno, Pulso Sports, the soccer bar. Niko, it is a full house this week. It is you, it is me, it is Nick, and it is Jarrett. It is a fatal four-way this week. Welcome aboard.
All right. I like that back line of four. How you doing, everybody? Happy to see you all here. Big thank you to John for having me on, as always. A good hello to Atlanta, the East, and everyone watching, the one and only SDH. Big Wednesday. Lots to talk about. Let's do it.
Nick, go.
All right. Thoughts from last night, man. What'd you see? What made you happy? What made you worried?
Ooh, that's a convoluted question. If obviously not the way you asked it, but so many answers. I think what I see is the Wild West in general, and I mean that there is no sheriff, there is no real team that's taking over the Western Conference. I think that's what I see. It's very tight. I can't remember the last time I could sit here and tell you guys that there isn't a clear favorite in the West. I mean, if you look at it, not just the standings, but the play, the current form, all the way from San Luis down to Portland even. It's anybody's game, man. You know, Portland's gaining points. They're gaining a little bit of confidence. The LAFC San Luis game showed you right now that even those two teams, you don't really know who is the better team. It used to be LAFC has the stars. They have the power. They're going to go in there and dominate teams. San Luis kept up with them yesterday. They played physical. They took the ball in certain parts of this game from LAFC. They created chances. No Vela, no Long in this one. You could see the difference in the final third. They just weren't as crisp. San Luis just gave him everything they had, and he just stayed there, right? The Seattle Sounders as well, they have problems of their own. They go against the worst team in the Western Conference. They get a win, but it wasn't a dominant win. I mean, it was dominant in terms of them playing to their tempo, creating all the chances, walking around the field with the ball at will. But when it comes to finishing, when it comes to just running over Colorado, they didn't do that, right? They miss a couple of half chances. They continue to try to find their way into being just more fluid, more dynamic at times. At the end of this game, the sub saying that Chris Little, former Sounder organization coach and Tacoma Defiance coach, his substitutions really made a difference, and they put Seattle under some pressure. They get a goal back. It's a 2-1 win. So all in all, the West is what I see. What makes me happy, Seattle gets a point. What makes me worried is that once again, it's anybody's game in the West.
Jarrett, go.
And as we can shift it to the East, I need to know if I'm crazy or not, because I'm trying to figure out if I'm crazy. In that I'm giving a very intense side eye to Cincinnati. They're going to win the Shield. That's fine. It's a team that keeps rescuing things late. Am I crazy for not trusting them come playoff time? When you get into the playoffs and you go behind, it's a different animal to crawl back into games.
You're not crazy. And it's tough to say why that reason, right? Because all the stats, all the numbers would tell you that this is the best team in MLS. You look at their roster, you look at them on paper, but there's a couple of teams that go against them. One, history, right? Every supporting Shield team that has done great in the regular season tends to struggle in some way, either not make it to the finals or they fall short. So you have that going in terms of your point of view. And then it's the play, what we've seen recently, and how Vasquez just doesn't seem as lethal as he did last year, and how that final third with Bapuenza still seems to need to kind of get in gear, right? You bring a new guy, DP, you need him to work well, and you're still in the process of getting that going. They're still a very good team, right? They press right, they defend right, they do all their fundamentals correctly, but they just don't look like a team that is, 8 points above in the Shield race, right? So I get the apprehension. I think is well-founded. And would it surprise me if they are a dud in the playoffs? No, because like I said, there is some things that can tell you that a team that does this well early can struggle. Yeah. But again, it's just that. It also wouldn't surprise me that it all comes together. Everything's all right. Santiago Arias looked really good yesterday. Barral is probably going to be in the last season in MLS here. He's going to have a great finish to this season. Can Vasquez find it again? Can he become in the last couple of games that poacher, that target forward that they need him to be, perhaps? So it's a little bit of both, but I don't think you're crazy. And that was your question.
So let me get in my weekly Messi and Friends question.
Oh.
And I've made a point of this morning. Oh, which cup of coffee are you on, 1 or 2?
Oh, this is 2, baby. Oh, this is 2. Yeah, I've been up early, setting up for Soccer Bar. I had a radio call in Uruguay, so it's been a busy morning.
All right, so my Messi and Friends question goes along the lines of this week. I'm thinking, all right, Messi and Friends, they got to do their thing, and it's, you got Toronto, and then you got the matchup against the purple team this week. It's a chance to continue to move up the table. I start Messi on my fantasy team. I captain Messi on my fantasy team. I start Jordi Alba because it's a double match week. Exactly. So 37 minutes is how long Messi lasts. Jordi Alba, I don't think lasted that long. No. And they still put 4 on Toronto because, well, frankly, everybody puts 4 on Toronto. Where are you where Messi and Friends are? And basically, like Nick has maintained, you need to put Messi on ice until Open Cup final.
Yeah. I mean, in a nutshell, I've been told you guys that I'm done doubting Messi. I'm done doubting Tata. So I think they still make the push for the playoffs. I think that DC United is a pretender. I think that Montreal is an even more pretender. I'm not a believer in Lasada. I think that they lack consistency. I think they drop games regardless of what they just recently did. And DC United as well. I do think that there is a chance that Miami gets there. When it comes to Messi and putting him on ice, I was shocked, to say the least, that I saw him in that starting rotation, because it was Toronto that you were playing. I mean, you could have put the kids, you could have put, John at goalkeeper and me at, the 6, and, we might have done okay against this Toronto team. So all in all, I was surprised. I think that they unnecessarily risked their best player, and the player that makes them immortal, right? Without Messi, they're mortal, and now you have to worry about exhaustion, right? Because Tata talked to the press. He said there's no way he's playing the next game, right? And him or Jordy, it's not something that is seems to be a severe injury, but it's just something that just they need to be taken off the field. First Alba, then Messi. You could see that they were fatigued. Messi was kind of bent over, holding his knees. I mean, he was tired. There was obviously some discomfort. So you take him off. You're starting to unnecessarily run the wheels of this bus, and you just don't have to do that, right? And then you saw it after Robert Taylor comes in. He's taking huge strides. I mean, he cooked Toronto yesterday. As soon as he came in for Messi touched him, gave him the powers of the mighty Messi, and he just looked great. I mean, you couldn't get the ball off his feet. He was dangerous. That goal from the top of the box, where I don't know what Toronto's doing, just allowing one player to follow him, wherever you're just watching with popcorn in their hands. Lord have mercy. And then he just takes that shot, cross post from the goalkeeper. He assisted. He got that last goal where he receives the ball, looks up, puts it away in the angle. I mean, he was just fantastic. So you have the players that are showing you that they can do it, and yet you risk Messi and Alba. I think he should have sat him down, started the game, and if you needed him, you break the emergency glass and you bring in Messi. But he doesn't do that, so it does worry me for the future of this team where Messi's at. So with the assumption that Messi's okay and maybe he's just going to rest one game and even put in doubt his presence, obviously, for U.S. Open Cup, then I would still think that Messi and friends make it to the playoffs, but he could stumble upon their Open Cup chances.
Nick, go for it.
Look, I understand where Apple is right now. They're trying to do their documentary series. They're trying to, put as much media out as humanly possible about anything that ties in Messi. I remember in the Mercedes-Benz press for the Atlanta-Miami game, you had Argentine officials, Argentine sports reporters. You had, the list was pretty nuts. I understand what they're trying to do, but I'm with Nico here. I'm done doubting that Messi is anything other than just one of the best, if not the best, regardless of who he's playing with or where he's playing. He legitimately seems very happy here. But that doesn't mean that Miami should feel any pressure to put him on the field when he's not feeling 100%. I am stunned that he played in that game last night. I would not have done that, especially coming off of missing the game in Atlanta. If anything, I would have felt pressure to be like, no, Messi, you're sitting out on this one. So it makes it easier for us to be like, hey, look, he was injured then. Or he felt it then. He felt it now. This is legitimate. We're freezing him until the Open Cup final. That's just me on there. I think the question is can Miami get it done to get into the playoffs? That's the big thing for me, because that big 4-0 win last night seems to showcase that if you're not playing Atlanta, Miami has the ability to put goals on you no matter what, which is pretty scary for everyone else in the East.
Yeah, and the thing about it is, if you look at the schedule, I mean, they got some very, I don't want to say easy, but easy games. Okay, no, not easy, but maybe winnable games, if you say so, right? New York City FC is hard to determine. Honestly, they're a yawn to watch these days. They look anemic. They seem to be out of sorts. That derby against the Red Bulls was probably one game I want to take back from watching late night, because it was honestly hard to stay awake for. They have Charlotte twice, and Charlotte is another team that doesn't scare anybody. There's a clear dysfunction upstairs of that attacking with Swiderski and Kopetti. They don't seem to fit, and not just that, but in general senses, they're not a team that you think is going to be able to take on your Miami. Then you got Chicago, who is just there to fill in the spaces and fill in the schedule, but they're really not going to be able to do anything in Miami. So I really do believe that there is a chance that they can still make it.
All right, before we get into red light, yellow light, green light, I have to ask, what's up with this rebrand up there in the Northwest?
Hey, hey, that's a big topic, and that's a sensitive topic over here in the Northwest. I don't mind it. I mean, I am a realistic, and I, grown up watching Atlético Nacional all my life. They've been rebranded several times. I think it's just part of soccer, to be honest. This team has not changed their logo since entering MLS in 2009. It's kind of I appreciate the shield. I think that it has obviously a rooted sense for anybody who's followed that team since they came into MLS. But there's also been rebrands since the beginning of this team back in 74, right? So with that said, I think that it is time, and there's nothing wrong with rebranding as long as you do it correctly. And if anything else, this organization takes in consideration their fans. And they've done a bunch of polls, and they've asked the Alliance members, and they have, for everything that I've been hearing, they thought about removing the Space Needle because, in all honesty, it doesn't really carry any true Seattle Pacific Northwest roots, right? It's a corporate thing. It's a structure that reminds you of Seattle, and it says Seattle, but it's privately owned. I mean, it's not necessarily something that talks to the Seattle soccer community. But even knowing that they could remove that, they talk to the fans. Fans say no. Space Needle says Sounders, so they're going to keep it. So to conclude the very touchy subject, I think that Seattle Sounders is going to do it right. I have confidence that this new shield, the rebrand, is going to have enough from the old crest combined with maybe bringing it to this century or to this era with a better design. So I think it'll be okay. I understand the fans being nervous, apprehensive about the colors and, losing their identity. And you look at the first Chicago rebrand and you look at the Columbus rebrand, I understand why you would feel like it's very easy to get it wrong, but I think Seattle will get it right.
All right. So it is time, and what we always do with Niko, and I'm going to include Nick in this week since Nick has made it to the end of the show. It is time to play red light, yellow light, green light. And for those of you that have not seen this particular part of the show, who's got the red light? Who's basically what team in Major League Soccer is stuck at the intersection with the hood up and the engine and the transmission have fallen out, and there's no way that they need to get a wrecker and they need to call AAA because something's seriously wrong. Yellow light, the way that it works is that it can go either one of two ways. It is a team that is ready to speed through the intersection That light turns yellow. They're speeding through the intersection. They're ready to go green. They want to make it through. They want to keep pushing. Or it's a team that heard a noise when they were touching the brakes. They're hearing the brake pad squeak, and so they're not going to speed through the intersection. They're going to kind of sit there and heading toward the red light, like the car in the other lane that's sitting there waiting for the record. Green light. Who's got the green light? Who's doing well this week? Who's really storming through everything? Who doesn't worry about what the stoplight says above their head? They're just plowing through the intersection. They're in the speed. They're in the acceleration lane on the freeway. Nothing's going wrong. All right. So, Niko, since Niko is the visitor, he will start. What direction do you want to go first?
Let's start with red light.
All right.
Let's start with red light because I got something to say about red, and it's a red mayor, and we've talked about it in the past, and you know that they are the governor of red light town. But I've never been so sure that there needs to be a wrecking ball to just smash Toronto FC's roster and rebuild it from the beginning, right? I mean, this Inter Miami team, it took them 30 plus minutes to settle into this game. And even then, this Toronto team was slow in transition. They looked like they've never played together. There was a time where Osorio was on a fast break and he passes the ball to clear space, and Vasquez doesn't run to the ball, and it just is easily intercepted by Inter Miami. They made this Inter Miami almost defensive looking team in the way that they were trying to come at it and trying to be a counter team with the way they set up to just own the ball. They allowed them to just own the ball, and they just weren't able to make any sort of presence on the field. Insigne is playing on his own. Kremasky's playing on Bernadeschi's playing on his own. They're just worrying about Team Me, taking shots half space. Insigne more than one time bad on the ball, bad on dribbling, bad on decision making. All he was worried about was trying to take a mid-range shot that might go in. It was just a dysfunctional team. So the red light is because I don't see how you don't just figure out what two pieces you might keep from this car and you just take it apart, rebuild it completely. It was an awful performance by Toronto. Yes, Inter Miami has some really good pieces, some young pieces, but 4-0, man, I mean, they just got completely owned. Red light for sure.
Nick, who's your red light this week?
My red light is going to be, it has to be Toronto, because I think they're in a bad situation right now. From a contract perspective, you have designated players who don't want to be there anymore. You spend a ton of money on players who have not performed for you. And the hopes were so, it's not just that you invested this money in players who were very, very good, but the hope was there as well, that whenever they started off, it looked like it was going to be Toronto just throttling the rest of the league, and then it fell off a cliff. I don't know how they get back from this, because they seem to make questionable decision after questionable decision. I don't think Herdman's the person who you want running that team. He didn't show me anything with Canada. He didn't in his decision-making generally seems to be quite poor from a soccer perspective.
Yeah. So
he's a bluster guy, you know, probably a very good wrestling manager, but probably not a very good soccer coach. Yeah, it's an absolute, the light matches the jersey. So it's red across the board.
Niko, yellow light. What direction are you going?
Oh man, I might get canceled or maybe attacked here in the Pacific Northwest, especially in this city. But I'm gonna give the yellow light to Portland, man. And they're 5 games unbeaten. It seems like after Giovanni Savarese, this team decided, okay, we're gonna actually fight hard on the field. In those 5 unbeaten, they beat LAFC 2-0. They drew the Seattle Sounders after going down 2 goals. They beat RSL. And then yesterday, they beat down San Jose. They do it by being very vertical. They have simplified the way they play. They did it without Diego Charad, that we wish him all the best. He had surgery for a medical condition. He's doing well, I hear. So good for him. So they did it without their guy, without that anchor in the midfield and the guy that gives them leadership and reassurance and everything that Diego Chara does for this team. So I got to give it to him, man. It seems like defensively they've gotten better. Offensively, like I said, they simplified. Santiago Moreno, who wanted nothing to do with Portland, was getting ready to leave, all of a sudden has been revamped, re-energized, and he looks great. Evander does it all, has scored, I want to say 3 games in a row already. Does it in many different ways. Mid-range, he gets close. He helps link play. Because of the Diego Chara problems, he's dropped back a line. He's played at the 10. He's done it all. So Evander is looking great. And he seems to have finally realized that he's a key component for this team, and he's got to play as such. Between Mora and Bolly, they're a very good team up top with a lot of options in that 9 position. So I really think that this Portland team can be a problem if they get to the playoffs. It's not easy because their goal differential is abysmal. But if they make it, man, watch out. Watch out, because this Portland team is got some momentum.
All right, Nick, your yellow light once again. It can either be a team that's got squeaky brakes or a team that's just plowing through ahead to a green light. What do you got?
Orlando City is my yellow light. I know that we don't like talking about the Purple Kitties up here in Atlanta, but that 2-0 loss to New York City, I think, exposes some doubts, maybe exposes a little bit of weaknesses here and there. And for a team that's second in the East, you are in a position right now where it is your 2 points, right, from this sort of middle of the pack where Columbus, Philly, and New England are, and then you're sitting right there, close to 6 and 7. So it is a very thin margin of error for Orlando City right now. I mean, Cincinnati's running away with the East, that's fine, but 2 through 7, it's going to be a knife fight all the way to the end. So if I'm looking at somebody with a little bit of a skeptical eye, a little bit of caution, it might be Orlando City, because that pressure is going to really start mounting on that 2 spot. And Orlando has shown us more than once that in high pressure situations that team has a tendency to fold. So that's somebody I got my eye on.
Green light, Niko. Who is it this week?
Green light is a team that has been there before, but that they were a little shaky. And I'm talking about the Columbus Crew. They lost a game they shouldn't have lost against Orlando. They've showed us that they have some holes in their defense. Sometimes playing wing backs or fullbacks as center backs doesn't always work, and they continue to do it. I know that Nancy wants guys that they run, they're good on the ball, they have certain presence, and that means that it doesn't necessarily mean that they have to be center backs. But sometimes you need some of those rough grinders, man. Sometimes you need those guys that are going to just clog the gaps. They're going to work, they're going to duel, but they go and they put 3-0 on Chicago. Yes, it's Chicago, I get it. Anybody can do that. But Cucho Hernandez, man, that hat trick, he gives them just a different feel. And Cucho, he's just starting to get some inertia behind him. And if he is like a bus downhill without brakes, you better watch out, because he might just creep up and completely take this team all the way to the final, because they're that good up top. I think every single game, him and Rossi getting a better mindset. They are becoming what we were seeing with Lucas Larayan in him. And when you put that across with the co-stellar group, right? Those pieces around them that work so well together, man, they're just very, very good. Like I said, it worries me sometimes that they're a little too open, and in that midfield, neither Nagby or Morris are real disruptors, real all-around sixes that are just going to lock it down. So that worries me a little bit, because it opens them up well, but they can go and beat down any team offensively, man. They have goals for days. So big credit to Nancy, credit to the players that were brought in here. But they're my green light, and they're the team that I'll continue to say that I will take in the playoffs because they're never out of any game.
All right, what's going on at Pulso Sports in the Soccer Bar, my friend?
All righty, Pulso Sports. We just recently came from a big week of some great interviews. Have Alex Roldan talking about Hispanic Heritage Month, his journey, how tough it was for him to get to where he's at. He's one of the faces of Hispanic Heritage Month, and wanted to give him that stage to have to talk to us. We also have a couple of really good soccer bar projects coming up that will be out next week, so just go ahead and wait for that. But today, because of a little bit of a change of schedule, we're gonna be on Soccer Bar at 10 a.m. today.
All right, so Nick, who is your green light this week as we head toward the close of the show?
Houston's my green light. What Houston's doing right now, I don't think any of us expected Ben Olsen to go in and have this kind of effect. He really had stagnated to such a tremendous level at DC that I personally thought his coaching career was done. But to see what he's able to do with Houston, 41 goals, only 33 allowed, that they're going to be very, very competitive going forward. I mean, that is, when you talk about a team that can score, a team that is solid defensively, they're going to be consistent. I don't think, and they're going to get a home game, and I don't think Houston is a place where anybody wants to go and play right now. So as Vancouver showed, yeah, it's a long flight. That's what I mentioned yesterday on our bets. But if you're coming from the Pacific Northwest and you are having to play Houston, I'm not looking forward to that. And if you are one of these other teams like a San Jose or a Portland that may have to go and visit Houston, nope, not interested in any of that. And they're steady enough where if they do have to go and play a St. Louis or a Seattle, I don't think they're going to be as rattled to go to those situations and be competitive. I just don't. So to me, my green light is going to be the Houston Dynamo, which kind of is concerning for me to say because I never would have expected myself to say that, but here we are.
No, yeah, I think Houston's in that Columbus Crew type of boat where they're not at the top of the table, but nobody wants to play them. I mean, they really don't. And I never thought I'd say that of a team with Barrett as their number 9 or as their leading goal scorer, but man, they just look good.
All right, here's what to watch before we go, because we aim to have an informed viewership here and listenership. Here's where you can go to watch all your stuff. ACC Network's got college soccer at 6 and 8 on the women's side. NWSL on CBS Sports Network at 10, Angel City in Orlando. FS2 going on right now. If you care, it's the Saudi Pro League. I don't. Longhorn Network's got Texas Tech on the women's side at 8. SEC Network has Ole Miss and Vanderbilt at 7. TNT has your women's friendly USA South Africa at 7:30. It's the last match for Julie Ertz. 2 to NA has Europa League doubleheader, 12:45 and 3. Linz, Liverpool, Brighton, and AEK. Unimas has your simulcast of Linz and Liverpool. Universo has your simulcast of the women's friendly at 7:30. 5 matches on ACC Extra on the women's side for ACC college soccer. ESPN Plus, 4 West Coast games on the men's side. A lot of women's action starting at 12:05 with Southern Indiana and Little Rock, ending, good Lord, they've got like 100 matches with 4 matches at the 10 o'clock hour. Paramount Plus, we said they've got all your Europa and all your Europa Conference League stuff. Argentine Primero, they've got 4 matches. Belgrano Platense at 4. Union Santa Fe Godoy Cruz at 5:30. Argentinos Juniors, Talleres Cordoba at 6:15. River Plate and Atletico Tucumán at 8. Brasileiro, triple header. Vasco da Gama Curitiba at 6. Atletico Paranaense Internacional at 6:30. Gremio Palmeiras at 8:30. Plus the NWSL match. Peacock also has the simulcast of USA and South Africa. SEC Network has 7 matches in college women's soccer. VIX has your simulcast of everything going on for a Europa League, Europa Conference League. That's a show. We're out of here. I'm out of breath. He's Niko. He's Nick. Jarrett is long gone. Played safe, everybody. We're going to do this again tomorrow, 9 o'clock, for all the stuff to get you ready for another weekend. Played safe, everybody. Mucha plata, y'all. It's the end of the show. That means I get to do this. Catch your breaths. Enjoy your lunch. We'll see you tomorrow.